Hi, my name is Ed Boon, creator of Mortal Kombat, and you're listening to This Week in Geek with Mike the Birdman Dodd and the rest of the TWIG crew on This Week in Geek.
Who disrupts my coronation?
Everyone has been destroyed because of this freak! I won't allow it! These babies just saved this lame fest party!
What's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I trek into the wonderful world of March 2021. It's been a year since the pandemic has started. We're all still stuck inside. Some of us are a little heavier, some of us are a little bit lighter, but we're all mad just the same. But I'm not alone as I trek through the merriment of strangeness. I'm joined with my co-host in the wonderful city of Kitchener,
Alex the producer.
So yeah, it has been a hot minute since we last talked with you guys, and well, as we often do things here on the show, we usually talk about the week that is and forever shall be. So this last week, me and Blair, who is my wife of the last 10 years, well, we've been together for 14 as of this year. As you guys know, last week I was in the hospital for a couple of days, and that happened to be on our Valentine's Day. Now, we were originally doing something through Amazon called Amazon Experiences. And what these things are, they are virtual tours you take through a Zoom-like interface. And the first time we went to a butterfly conservatory in Costa Rica. And we decided, okay, so for Valentine's Day, we were going to go to a place in Australia called Bondi Beach. Now, unfortunately, our host flaked on us and we couldn't do anything for a week. So I rebooked our trip. And we went back to Australia and we went to Bluray National Park, which is just outside of Sydney, Australia. And we had a really nice tour guide named Matt. And he comes from the company Sydney Guided Tours. And he was showing us pictures of local wildlife. He actually showed me a Aboriginal cave drawing that he found once I told him that I was First Nations. I was really into this sort of thing, into other indigenous cultures. He's like, hey, and the university's just coming to verify it this week, but you're the first person I've ever shown this to. And
yeah, you.
yeah, it was really, really, really neat. And he showed us these really cool caves. And they showed this kind of honeycomb effect. And he didn't know precisely how they were formed, but because my wife, Blair, has a geography and geology background, that's where she has her bachelor's and her master's degree. She was able to explain it was formed through weathering, heat expansion, and all sorts of different weathering effects. So it looks like literally a giant honeycomb, looks like something out of fucking Alien. But the cool thing is, Matt, our tour guide, had a selfie stick. And he stuck his iPhone or his camera on the end of the selfie stick, and he's telling us about all the different wildlife that lives there. And at 2 points, there is some kind of an ant. He's like, okay, so if that thing bites me, I could go into anaphylactic shock, so we're not going to fuck with that. But he tells us about...
Sorry, but it makes me think of South Park with Cartman. I'm just going to stick my finger up its butt. Was the rainforest episode where he smacks the snake with a stick, and the snake swallows their guide whole and poops him out in one fell swoop? That's all. When I think of Australia, I think of that kind of stuff happening.
I actually did say to our tour guide, I'm like, Australia, where everything tries to murder you. So
unless you murder it back.
He also showed us some wallaby poop, which is kind of funny. But the big highlight of this is he tells us about this thing called a flower-tailed gecko, or sorry, a leaf-tailed gecko. And it looks like a fucking dinosaur, but it has this tail that's flat and it looks like a cactus leaf on its tail. So he tells us about it, and he sticks his camera up into these caves, which are, like I said, that really cool kind of honeycombed effect. And he's going to the caves. He can't see what's going on. And I'm like, hey, Matt, stop. He's like, what? Why? I see one of your geckos. He's like, no way. That's never happened before. So I got a couple of pictures of it for him. And he's like, oh, that is so cool. That's actually never happened to me before. So he asked me to email him the pictures of that to him. And he emailed me back last night. And he's like, oh my God, Mike, that is so cool. It was an honor to talk with like you and Blair. And we sent him some pictures of our local area where like we are. And there's a place near us called the Cheltenham Badlands, which is another geological formation near us. And it's all these different layers of sedimentary, I think, rock or sandstone or something. And it looks different colors. Now, because of where they are in Australia, this particular area doesn't have temperate forests. So the pictures that I sent to Matt showed the Cheltenham Badlands during the fall. He's never seen trees change color.
Oh, yeah,
so,
that would make sense.
Yeah, so he's like, that's really cool.
Did you ask him about if watch out for the drop bears?
Well, he had something attack him on camera. He's like, I don't know what that was, but I don't want to find out.
Exactly. It is like South Park. It's you gotta carry a stick and boop things in the head every now and then.
And then he showed us all these different plants and all these different wildlife. He showed us I can't remember what it was, but there's this thing that looks like a sponge. And
I'll bet you that sponge is poisonous and wants to eat you.
No, surprisingly, you can drink the nectar and honey out of it, but if you get 6 of them and pour water into it, it acts like a natural filter. So you can filter water through it. And I think that's really kind of incredible. So late last night, I'm just going to bed, and I decided to pop on my Instagram. Matt found me through Instagram. So once again, if you want to check this out, if you go to your Amazon.com, it's only supposed to be available in the States, but you can go through it anywhere as long as you're going through .com. It's called Sydney Guided Tours. You can find them on Facebook. You can find them on Instagram. You can find them on YouTube. And it was just a tremendously fun experience. Now, next month, or this month rather, me and Blair have decided we're going to do one of these guided tours every month. And this month, we're going to be going to New Orleans. We're going to do the haunted and scandalous history of that particular city. We're going to do that towards the end of the month. Because it's not like I can travel. It's not like you can really do anything right now. So it's a good way to support a local economy. We've met some wonderful hosts during it. And I think it's a really cool way to just kind of explore the world from the comfort of your own home. So highly recommend doing this. You can learn salsa dancing. You can learn how to make authentic tacos. You can learn the history of Scandinavia. There's like a rickshaw tour through downtown Japan. There's like ghost tours. There's like a history of the Beatles. There's like Buckingham Palace and all this shit. Like, it's really cool. And I really recommend people check these out. Variety of different price points, as low as $10, as high as like $100, but cool stuff either way. Other than that, listening to my doctor, as he told me to take it easy. When you're tired, go to sleep. So I really haven't played a lot of video games. I played some Persona 5 Strikers, not as far as I'd like to be during that game, but I am enjoying my time with it. Played some Call of Duty Cold War. I know the new season has just started, but I haven't bought the Battle Pass yet. And that's pretty much about it. That's all that I've been doing. What about you, Alex?
I went back and did full playthrough again of Strikers. Had a lot of fun with that. Played a little more Mario. Trying to think. I caught up on some TV stuff and movies. I've been watching a lot of the Vinegar Syndrome stuff that was sent in. So there's going to be a few reviews on the show from that bundle of stuff. And I'm currently working my way through Bravely Default 2. I'm about 30-ish hours in, which is pretty good considering that as of this recording, it only came out 2 days ago.
Jesus. Speaking of TV, one of the things I missed while I was in the hospital is I didn't get a chance to finish the latest adaptation of The Stand, which is exclusive to CBS All Access, though not if you're in Canada. So yar is what I'll say. I pay for the service. Fuck off.
I pay for CBS. So I signed up and got the free trial, right?
Yeah.
There's only, I think, 10 shows in Canada.
I'm curious to see what'll happen when Paramount Plus launches this month.
That's why I got the month trial, because I thought, hey, let's see what happens when it converts over. And then if it turns out to be crap, then guess who's canceling?
Yeah, exactly. So we will wait and see, but I finished that, and it's something me and Alex and I think Aaron are going to talk about on Loose Cannon. We're going to talk about Stephen King adaptations. Why is it you have a really strong start and then you kind of fart your way across the finish line? Some good, some bad. This version of The Stand is stupid. I didn't like a lot of it.
It's very well produced.
Yeah, but it's just great cast, but no chemistry. Whereas the original, fantastic cast, low production value. So it's kind of a weird thing in the middle there. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on this month. So I've also been watching a shit ton of Hell's Kitchen with Blair. That's like our new nighttime thing. I think we're in season 13. So we've almost watched everything on Amazon Prime. Wow, I'm pretty sure I could make a capellini right now with no problem. Then I would never fuck up a scallop because I'd be afraid of the voice of Gordon Ramsay destroying me. But yeah, it's just fascinating to see how the other half lives. Other than that, though, we have a fantastic show for you today. We're going to talk about some of the things that happened across the world of entertainment. A famous band is calling it quits. A WWE star would be fantastic in a role if he's ever allowed to go near it. And we're going to talk about some of the weirder things that happened around the world, this planet, this past week. Alex, what do we have for reviews this week?
From me, we have a few films. We've got The Curious Dr. Humpp, which is one of the weirdest things I've ever seen in my life. We also have I sort of did them together, She-Mob and I Start Counting, from Fun City Editions and the American Genre Film Archive. Again, some of the weirder, more out there films we've ever been sent, so I thought sort of pairing them up together. Do we have anything from you?
No, not this week, because I just haven't had a chance to get a lot done.
So only 2 reviews then.
Yeah, so you're just gonna in the middle, you'll probably hear something. I'll find something fucked up to put in there. Maybe I'll put like an old commercial in there or something.
You could do something strange.
Yeah, something strange. So this week, folks, we're just going to take it a little bit easy. It's going to be a bit of more of a slower pace show till I feel a little bit better. But rest assured, the Birdman is on the way to healing, and hopefully they don't have to stick something down my throat or out my butt. We will wait and see. So until next time, we're going to throw things over to Alex, and this is going to be one of his reviews right now.
Our friends over at the AGFA, Something Weird and Vinegar Syndrome, sent a review copy of The Curious Dr. Humpp. And Curious doesn't really do it justice. It is out there, I'm telling you. So how do I start even describing this film? Now, the back of the box is probably the best way to go with this. It says, it isn't a movie, it's a rite of passage. Easily one of the most brain-breaking sensory overloads in exploitation history, the story follows Dr. Humpp and his army of grotesque monsters as they kidnap couples and drain their, in quotes, blood forces of sex to keep the doctor eternally young. Directed by prolific Emilio Vieira of Argentina, this movie combines artful gothic horror with unhinged sex. It does. It's weird. Comic book pulp and a talking brain in a jar, plus a monster who plays the guitar. Basically, this is what might have happened if Mario Brava collaborated with Doris Witchman after an acid binge. So basically, AGFA and Something Weird put together another restoration of just ridiculous proportions that could only happen in other countries. We had a chance to look at Malabimba in the past year and a couple other foreign films that are horrors, that mix horror, adult, and much just strange art house, crazy genre films that defy, categorizing completely. And on this, there's also a commentary track with filmmaker Frank Henenlotter, which is from Basket Case, which I think Basket Case is one of Birdman's favorite franchises. It's been newly scanned and restored in 2K from the 35 millimeter internegative. What that means is it's not the original print, but it's one of the original copies of the print. There is a bonus movie in here, which is a 2K restoration of the original cut of the film, which was found with a 35 millimeter fine grain lab print. There's some shorts on here. Now, the original version is a horror cut, in quotes, which has the original Spanish language, which is the first time it's ever been released with English subtitles. So prior to this, unless you were a native speaker, you were not going to be able to see this copy of that version of the film at all in English and understand what was going on, whereas there is an English version of Curious Dr. Humpp. There is a trailer on Vinegar Syndrome's website, so I'm going to make sure that I link to the page there so you can check it out, because it's going to be it's some of the strangest, oddest costumes, horror as in like just creepiness, weird angles. It's like something out of not just an acid trip. It's like, what if you sort of took Natural Born Killers, that weird frenetic style that Oliver Stone had in there, mixed it with the angles and just the cool flashiness that you would have seen from like late 80s / early 90s Tony Scott films, and made it in South America at a time when you could basically get away with making any kind of film you wanted and release it in theaters. And this is what you get. You get something that's, again, defies completely packing it together into any other category. It's a bit of every genre extreme you could imagine wrapped into one. It retails for about $23 It is something so different. I can't honestly say whether or not I like it or I don't like it, but I do want to watch it again if that says anything.
The Prime Minister of Sweden visited Washington today, and my tiny little nipples went to France.
Gossip, rumors, panic in the streets. We're lucky.
This Week in Geek News.
All right, well, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm your host, Mike the Birdman, joined with Alex the producer. And, well, we're going to talk about some of the things that made headlines around the world this past week. Just programming note, I took out a story that I found out wasn't exactly credible, so don't worry, The Miz is not going to be Johnny Cage in the next Mortal Kombat movie.
At least
but I'd
not
be okay
yet.
with that. Yeah,
at least not yet. We don't know.
We don't know yet.
Just it was being reported as being closer to being fact than it really was.
Yeah, although if that were to happen, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I really would.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So this next story kind of surprised me, but this one comes courtesy of IGN.com. Vampire the Masquerade 2, Bloodlines 2, developer removed, game delayed out of 2021.
Well,
Vampire the Masquerade.
This is something that was supposed to already have been out.
Yep, around Christmas time. So, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 has been delayed out of 2021, with developer Hardsuit Labs no longer handling the game's development. The news was revealed in a publisher, Paradox Interactive's 2020 year-end report. Paradox revealed it has started a collaboration with a new studio partner to finish work on the game. In a statement in the Bloodlines 2 Twitter account, Paradox said, in order to meet its ambitions for the game, the publisher came to the conclusion that a change is needed. As a result, more development time is required. Paradox thanked Hardsuit Labs for its work on the game so far. The studio has done a tremendous job in laying the foundations for the game, and we hope that you, the community, will also appreciate their contribution to Bloodlines 2. The year-end report indicates that the studio will finish work on the game, meaning it doesn't seem to be a full restart for development. Bloodline 2, which was initially pegged to be a Q1 2020, but was postponed to later in the year, being officially delayed into 2021 in August of 2020. This was just the start of the game's development troubles, as later that month, the game's narrative lead and creative director were dropped from the project unexpectedly. The game's senior narrative designer left shortly thereafter in October.
This is one of those situations where, wasn't there, like, we know that the most recent book had problems.
I don't know. I think they're probably trying to integrate too many systems into the game for it to function as well as they want it to.
Again,
and what do I mean by that?
This may not be like 100%, but I've seen things being thrown around online about, it was either the narrative director of this game or one of the programmers, one of the people that left, having direct ties to white supremacists.
I don't know whether that's true. I know
it's enough that it's being thrown around enough online that something's not right.
I know with Vampire the Masquerade, the 5th edition rules that were put out last year, there were some problematic elements to it. I don't know whether that extended, because I think Bloodlines 2 was set in the old world of darkness.
Yeah, so it just, there's something not right, regardless if that's what the issue is with development, in that if it was a Q1 2020 game, that wouldn't have been affected by the pandemic, meaning that they were horrendously behind schedule.
My guess, this is more of a technical thing than it is anything.
It looked bad, like the graphics. It looked like a PS3 game. And they were talking about how much money they were spending on this. I think they didn't have the. This is a case of, not that it doesn't matter how many years you'd give these people to do it. It might simply be that studio doesn't have the technical talent to actually make the game, which is rare nowadays, that a project gets handed to a company that isn't good enough to make it. But this might be a case, because it sounds like they're gutting it and bringing in a better team.
Well, the problem is with a lot of these World of Darkness games, they're not getting AAA studios. You're getting about mid-tier studios or some very high C-level studios handling them. I know Werewolf the Apocalypse Earthblood came out a couple weeks ago, and that's a solid mid-tier level game.
Yeah.
Nothing great, nothing exciting, but still solid.
It's very well executed for what they did. There's a lot of polish. There's no glitches. There's no bugs, because they kept the scope down. I think they might have been going beyond their reach with this.
The problem with doing Vampire the Masquerade is that's a game built entirely upon socialness and stealth mechanics, and it's got more in common with a Metal Gear sort of feel than straight combat. Sure, a vampire can still fuck you up with like celerity and all its powers and all that shit, but werewolves are meant to rip and tear.
Wasn't this announced right at the same time as Vampire, the game that came out from was it now like 2 years ago that I reviewed?
Something like that. Like, I remember the trailer for this.
It was right around the same time those two projects were announced, and it's like, and one's been out for 2 years already.
There was one thing that got announced with this, and I remember it was a big World of Darkness push they were doing. There was this game, there was Werewolf, and there was a Wraith VR game.
That one's still coming, I think.
I think so. I just haven't seen anything about it. I remember us getting press releases and press material of the Vampire Bloodlines 2 Collector's Edition, which showed off like a statue. You get a copy of the book. You get a copy of, I think, the map of Seattle or something.
Yeah, to me, this is becoming the next Biomutant.
Which that's supposedly coming out in May.
Yeah, after what, 3 years of delays?
Yeah, so we'll see. I've got friends of mine that have worked on that game, so if we get a chance to review it, we'll see.
Regardless, not trying to piss on everything. I'm just saying it's odd that a game that was supposed to have come out before the pandemic, they're stating the pandemic is the reason they're having trouble. The game was supposed to be out before the pandemic hit, so that's just a lie to try to cover their tracks. There's probably something fundamentally broken with it. I have a feeling that they showed it to the publisher, and the publisher said that's not next gen enough.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, I want to see more vampire games. I like the World of Darkness. I mean, the Hunter games were just very much in the style of Gauntlet, just kill monsters. No, don't do anything particularly special with Hunter the Reckoning, Redeemer. Werewolf was fine.
Why don't they make a mage game?
I think Mage would work if you did it as a visual novel. I think that'd be wonderful.
Like an adventure title. Like couldn't you do it if you did it a little bit like the Telltale games?
Yeah, I think that would work very well, especially if you kept it in that sort of old World of Darkness style. And you could even adapt some of the older properties like Wraith, like Demon, like Mummy, etc. So hopefully we'll see more World of Darkness stuff as time goes on. Werewolf hopefully is selling well enough that maybe it gets a sequel or a follow-up to it.
It wouldn't surprise me just based on, it doesn't seem like it was that expensive to produce and for the quality that you got out of it. And it also didn't release at a full price.
So Alex did that review a couple weeks ago. I'm also playing through it. I'm having fun with it. So something to definitely kind of check out. So this next story comes from Game Informer. So I do trust the source. But according to this, it looks like Henry Cavill, aka Superman, is teasing a Mass Effect adaptation. So Henry Cavill has had his hands full with taking on the role of Geralt of Rivia in Netflix's The Witcher series, but it looks like he's already got his eyes on his next project. On the actor's Instagram, he teased a quote-unquote secret project he's working on. It didn't take the internet long before that secret was decoded, and what was discovered has Mass Effect fans excited. The buffed-up fellow nerd took to his social media accounts to tease fans with an image that is blurred out except for his face. He either should know better by now, or he was given the go-ahead by intentionally tease the news ahead of a potential reveal, but it was not hard at all to alter the image to see what the blurred text read. The clever folks over at Game Pressure used a program called Frog Magic to decode the paper in the above photo. Using that, they were able to uncover the words Reaper, Cerberus, Tali'Zorah, and Geth. Well, Reaper is something that could apply to anything. I think it's fair to say that Tali'Zorah, the world's best Quarian, is a pretty solid indicator that this is indeed teasing a Mass Effect related project.
Now, I would want FemShep, but we're probably would he like? Do you think they would go with?
They'll probably go with Broshep because Henry Cavill's still a significant draw.
You sure? Or does he play Garrus?
Garrus would be a prosthetic character.
Or do you like?
In fact, you could bring on. You could, if you had an actor in a suit, you could still have the voice actor for Garrus do the voice acting.
Well, casting wise, how cool would it be if you think that he's going to be playing Shep, and then it turns out he's playing what's his name, the evil dude.
The Elusive Man?
No. That was no.
They'd get Martin Sheen.
He's
sure.
As long as he's still walking and talking, they're going to get him to do it because why not, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, what wouldn't you? Who is it that was the first? The Betrayer.
Saren.
Yeah, why not have him play Saren?
That'd be pretty cool.
He's not opposed. He's a geek. He's not opposed to wearing prosthetics or wearing stuff for that. Go with a FemShep. Have him play the bad guy, and I guess. You would just get some people would fit. Is dumb question. I'm going to sound really stupid. Is Lance Henriksen still alive? Oh yes, he has a movie that just came out.
Yeah,
you could have him Admiral.
He played Admiral Hackett. You could get Keith David to
play Anderson. They're the right age to play the characters too. They could play the characters they already played, right? So they already have their voices. They could do that. And as far as who would play FemShep, I'm not 100% sure.
I think I'd go with Broshep because I think that would attract the most amount of people. I would also see the canon romance would be Liara.
I was gonna say, you know what they would do though? They would just cast Sam Worthington, or they would cast what's this stupid ass? Who is the one is from Avatar?
Sam Worthington.
Is him? Who's the one from? Or they cast like Gerard Butler or somebody stupid. But then again, if they went with FemShep, they'd probably pick the chick from Game of Thrones, and she was terrible as Sarah Connor.
Lena Headey. I can't see her doing it.
No, I'm talking about in Genesis.
In Genesis, yeah,
it was terrible. No, so
Amelia Clark, yeah,
terrible. Like it's casting. I guess if you're gonna go Broshep, go him. I guess. But I think
he could carry it. I do. Now, if I were a funny man, and if I were in charge of casting, I would cast Mark
Bruce
Meir.
Campbell? No.
I would cast Mark Meir not as Broshep because he does a really awesome Vorcha.
Oh, you probably.
Or
yeah.
he would play Conrad Vernier as a cameo, just for fun.
You could
I think
do
that'd
that,
be pretty fun.
Just for fun. Let me think. It depends on who's producing it. If it ends up being like Warner Brothers or somebody, and they want to go with the whole, Justice League cast, you put Momoa in as Grunt.
That's not terrible, actually. So the article goes on to say, we've known that a Mass Effect film has been on the table for years now under the helm of Legendary, but has been in development hell for a long time, which is good because a movie for a game series like this, especially for adapting Shepard's story, has way too many factors that should absolutely not be crammed into a film format. We even broke down in detail why this type of adaptation wouldn't work, but how a TV show could, which I also agree on. You could read more about our thoughts, blah, 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 blah. Well, not so fast. While those words are lifted from the page, one writer on the site noticed that it looks pretty cut and paste from the Wikipedia page of Mass Effect 3, which crams in all those aforementioned words into one itty-bitty paragraph. That being said, it is with a stack of papers, so unless he's intentionally trolling the internet on a whole new level, this could be exciting news for the fans of the BioWare franchise.
What if the troll is that it's not Mass Effect, it's that he's doing a movie about the creation of the Wikipedia website? Oh, God.
I mean, ultimately...
that's the ultimate troll.
I would love to see a Mass Effect property come to life. I did a review years ago for Funimation, and I reviewed Mass Effect Paragon Lost, which was a side story that told the story of James Vega just before the Collectors were abducting human colonies, and it was Freddie Prinze Jr. and all that. And that went over fairly well. A Mass Effect TV show, since Paramount Plus is getting Halo, if you told me that, I don't know, what network could really benefit from having Mass Effect?
HBO, but then it would just be, would it not be infringing on Babylon 5, which has the same story?
I don't think so, because Mass Effect...
It's literally the same story. The Reapers and the Shadows, like there's so many things in here that it's basically the same thing. Babylon 5 is a place where all the biggest races in the universe come. It's basically the Citadel. It's the center of commerce and trade. There are shadowy creatures that want to end all life in the universe and basically force you to worship them, and they do mind control. And it's the same plot. It's basically the same thing. And then they have what's it? Shepard is a part of, what was the organization? I'm drawing a blank. I'm having a brain fart here.
The Spectres?
Spectres. Yeah, the Rangers are the same thing in Babylon 5. Like, it's the same thing. They lifted from Babylon 5, and then they lifted from other sci-fi stuff and mixed it in.
Well, let me ask you, what's going to get more attention? This or Babylon 5 or Mass Effect?
No, I'm saying it has to be HBO, because Warner would sue any other company that's making it because it's too close to the property they own.
I don't think so, just because if that was the case, why did Paragon Lost get made?
Anime is different.
I don't know. I think HBO would have the money to make it happen. CBS doesn't have a wherewithal to make it happen.
Legendary works with Warner, so it would be HBO. But CBS would not be having the money to put that in there.
Netflix could, but that would be that's their Stranger Things budget. That's everything.
I'll tell you
budget.
right now who it would be. It would be Apple, or because they've got the Asimov Foundation stuff coming out, and they've got some high quality crap. It would be them.
Amazon.
It would be them. I don't know if Amazon would want to dump money into it. They've got the Lord of the Rings project, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could see Peacock, perhaps, but I think it would be between HBO and Apple more than anything.
I could see that.
That are willing to really drop money on it.
And if you told me that Apple Plus was going to get Mass Effect, then I would sign up, because there's not enough shows on Apple to make it worth what you're paying for.
The Momoa show C is good, but it's not a subscription mover. For All Mankind is. It's that good. They have the Jennifer Aniston show that's supposed to be pretty good. I think the morning show or something.
Or something like that, yeah.
They've got a few others, but they've got that Isaac Asimov Foundation show coming. That looks really big budget. They've got about 10 other projects in the works. Because Peacock has Battlestar Galactica. Like, I don't see a lot of these companies wanting to double down on having 2 shows that are like super spacey stuff. HBO doesn't have one.
They've got Westworld, kind of.
Westworld's probably going to end, and Westworld's, the Western sci-fi. They've never on HBO really doubled down on like, here's hard space sci-fi. Let's school all of you other streaming services and show you how it's done.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, if HBO put the money into it, Mass Effect could work. And the fact that Henry Cavill's already worked with them,
instead of the 10 episode seasons that they usually do, make them 6-episode miniseries. And the 6 episodes covers the first game. 6 episodes covers the next game. Because with 6 1-hour episodes, you could tell basically the whole plot, and you wouldn't be spending 20 hours sending probes out and searching on planets.
Yeah.
How many times did Blair yell at you because you spent hours probing planets in the second game?
It's true. I mean, ultimately, I would do 6 to 10 episodes because you want to develop a lot of the characters.
Yeah. Think about 6 episodes, and if they wanted to, $200 million. Because look how good WandaVision looks and Mandalorian, and those are $100 million budgets for 8 episodes. What if you did $200 million for 6? HBO could get the subscribers if it was that good.
Especially, and if you had an all-star cast behind it, all-star special effects.
Yes, and they can, and the reason they can afford that is, you're paying $80 a year, $100, $20 a year now for Disney Plus if you're a new subscriber. HBO is still $20 a month. So they could justify, be like, why do you keep charging $20 a month when everybody else is cheaper? Well, look what we're putting out.
Yeah. And that'd be pretty neat. So hopefully we'll see some Mass Effect news in the future. I know with Anthem kind of taking a nosedive this past week, they're refocusing on Dragon Age 4 being a single player only game. They're refocusing stuff on Mass Effect. And the Legendary Edition, I think, comes out in just a little over 70 days now. So
looking forward to that.
Yep.
I know it's not going to hold up the way I remember it exactly, but you're getting an Xbox copy, right?
Oh God, yeah.
I'm getting a PS4, so we'll see if there's a difference. I'm hoping that they do native upgrades so we can get like adaptive triggers and stuff. But even if we don't, I'm okay with just playing it on whatever. I think yours might look better being on the Xbox, but I figure we should each get one of the other. You know what I mean? So we can compare.
Mm-hmm. All right, so our final story this week comes to us from superherohype.com. The Batman co-writer will produce Netflix's Terminator anime series. After Terminator Dark Fate, the future of the Terminator live-action franchise is still in question. Regardless of what happens on the big screen, the franchise will live on in an upcoming anime series from Netflix. Via The Hollywood Reporter, Netflix, Skydance, and Japan's production IG have joined forces to produce a Terminator anime. Mattson Tomlin, the co-writer of The Batman, has signed on to executive produce the new anime series and serve as the showrunner. Tomlin's previous credits include Netflix's Project Power. He's also working on cinematic adaptations for Fear Agent and Mega Man. Anyone who knows my writing knows I believe in taking big swings and going for the heart, said Tomlin in a statement. I'm honored that Netflix and Skydance have given me the opportunity to approach the Terminator in a way that breaks conventions, subverts expectations, and has real guts. Terminator is one of the most iconic sci-fi stories ever created and has only grown more relevant in our world over time, added Netflix's John Dearden. The new animated series will explore this universe in a way that's never been done before. The feature film franchise began in 1984 with The Terminator, which featured Arnold Schwarzenegger in the title role. 5 sequels have followed to varying degrees of success. Additionally, Terminator The Sarah Connor Chronicles ran for 2 seasons on Fox in 2008. I think this is cool. What do I want from it? I don't know. I'd like to see, if it's a series, you can do a lot of future war stuff.
Well, Production IG, for those that don't know, I'm just doing a bit of I've recognized the name. They're known for the Zillion series, but that was their first one with Blue Seed, was probably one of the more popular ones from the 90s. They've also done all of the Ghost in the Shell stuff since Standalone Complex came out. because that might be where I saw their name from. And they've done tons of OVAs, Fooly Cooley. And film-wise, they did the Neon Genesis Evangelion Death and Rebirth and the end of Evangelion. They're the ones that came in to do the final stuff. They've also... They're a pretty prolific company when it comes to pretty much 2 or 3 movies per year. They did the Mass Effect Paragon Lost movie.
Okay, so we have a pretty good idea on what their style is going to look like. Yeah. If I were to do anything with this, if I were this guy, I would tell the first stories of what happens after Judgment Day. Like, I know I've pitched this story before on either Nerd to the Third Power or here on this show, but I would follow not necessarily the rise of John Connor, but how people transition into the resistance that is TechCom until you get to the time displacement equipment where they send the first Terminator back in time. Tell me the prequel that isn't Terminator Salvation.
Can we just get a story that's not based in the United States?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay with that.
Like, why is it that it's just assumed that there's no other human resistances anywhere else in the world? Why is it only in the States?
I can answer that kind of. Okay, so Skynet's central core is based out of the Cheyenne Missile Complex. Okay. That's where it's primarily held. However, there is a defense grid that exists in Los Angeles, and I think that's called the termination line. Anything behind the termination line is dead. Nothing survives there. So the termination line is constantly moving east, I think. And once it gets past a certain point, we're all dead.
Well, like what I'm saying is wouldn't there be, yeah, I understand why the fights happen there, but wouldn't there be pockets of countries that weren't strategic missile? Like if all the missiles in the world fired wherever they were pointed, it's one thing. But there are going to be countries that were not of strategic advantage that survived, mostly intact.
They do talk about that in some of the expanded universe material. I know there are still green places on Earth.
Like I don't think there's any missiles pointed at the Fiji Islands or at New Zealand. So wouldn't they be isolated enough that not that they would survive? Like eventually the Terminators would come to kill them, but wouldn't most of their supplies and their you know what I mean, their systems wouldn't have been shut down because they have their own self-sustained power and all that sort of stuff.
They'd probably just have a bunch of like HKs and roaming and no skeletons. You'd probably just have ground forces.
What I'm saying is when the government's collapsed in the blink of an eye, there are certain countries that are wealthy enough and advanced technologically enough that they would have been able to scramble and try to band together initially. I would love to see that perspective of D-Day from a perspective of a country that wasn't hit with the nukes.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think there's a lot of stories to be told in the Terminator universe that aren't necessarily the John Connor story, and I don't disagree with you. It would be interesting to see a more world perspective.
Like, what about a culture in, like, the rainforest that's never come in contact with technology? What would
I want to say that's been done, because there's something I remember, but I can't remember.
Think like Apocalypto or something. Think of, like you're watching from the perspective. Think of about an anthology where you're just watching the perspective of them living their lives, and they look up and they see a Terminator walk in for the first time. What does it do to them? Yeah.
So hopefully this will be cool. My guess is we're not going to see this until 2023 at the earliest. I know we still have to see the Cyberpunk one.
I was just going to say we're probably going to see the Cyberpunk anime first.
But
and what's the other one? The Arc anime that they're making. We'll probably see that. You know, with Arc 2 was announced, Survival, whatever it is, with Vin Diesel.
Oh, I forgot about that.
There's the anime coming out. That's probably going to come up for this.
So we'll wait and see. I mean, I guess this guy's got enough on his plate by writing the Batman, and I'm sure he'll have some other neat things to come out. So hopefully this will be interesting. I want to see some concept art. I want to see a story treatment. But I'm optimistic, so we'll wait and see. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Nerd News this week. As always, if you want to submit stories that you think are interesting, at ThisWeekInGeek on Twitter or feedback at ThisWeekInGeek.net, me and Alex both get those emails and communications that way. We don't have a review for the middle of this show this week just because life got in the way and you're just going to have to deal with it. So here's something stupid. When we come back, we're going to talk about exploding things, Wolverine powers, and Elvis. We'll be back, guys, right after this.
Kids, that just might be the dumbest idea I've ever heard, ever!
Go crazy?
Don't mind if I do.
Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
All right, well, welcome back to ThisWeekInGeek.net. I'm Mike the Birdman. He's Alex, producer. All right, so let's talk about the strange and unusual things that happened around the planet this week, and we're going to start things locally around us. This one comes courtesy of Kitchener.ctvnews.ca. The king of rock and roll was spotted in several Kitchener neighborhoods on Saturday night. An Elvis impersonator spent his evening performing Elvis Presley's classic hits on a residential stage constructed in the bed of a pickup truck. It was part of the city's Reimagine initiative to support mental health and well-being in the community. One Kitchener resident said on social media that the impersonator arrived right in front of her neighbor's house Saturday night, and it was a sweet moment watching the neighbors come outside and enjoy the show. Now that Kitchener is back in the red zone, which is our color-coded COVID system.
Would sound bad, but in actuality is better than lockdown.
Yes. The city's mayor, Barry Verbanovic, said officials have a few surprises planned for residents. He said, in addition to online programming and outdoor activities, the city is hoping to continue doing other COVID-safe activities similar to the Elvis impersonator. I've seen some of the tweets, and I've seen this guy in his little pickup trailer thing.
I should note, this is not the Kitchener Elvis.
I was wondering if this was downtown Elvis.
No, this is not downtown Elvis. Downtown...
Tell the story of downtown Elvis.
I will. How do I put this? This is an Elvis impersonator here singing to raise support and awareness for mental health. Downtown Elvis is somebody who needs the support for mental health, if that makes any sense. Okay, so this is a professional. Downtown Elvis is a guy who I thought was homeless, but I don't think he is. But he is somebody with some sort of mental health challenges.
Some kind of concern, yeah.
Yeah. He has been here for like 20 some odd years. He goes around downtown and other parts of Victoria Street and other areas, and he just picks up cigarette butts all day. Sometimes he smokes them, which is disturbing, but sometimes he just picks up the garbage. And he has a few different Elvis outfits. He's got to be in his 60s, maybe even a little older.
And aren't they like immaculately kept too?
Yes, this is the thing. You would think he was a homeless person, except for he has the blue outfit, he has the white one from the Live in Vegas satellite show, and he has a black one. And they are like
stage ready,
costume perfect ready, like better. His outfits are better than this impersonator that was professionally doing it. And he also dyes his hair shoe polish black, wears like his hair all coiffed up like Elvis. And if you walk up to him and say, "Hey, how's it going, Elvis?" and he'll go, "Great, thank you very much," and he just looks away. And he'll do that all the time. So I've seen him for years. And he does also occasionally, very rarely, dress up as a German girl, like a Heidi type girl with pigtail wig and a dirndl dress and everything. And people don't even think twice. He's been doing it for years, right? So I'm going to Factory Direct on Victoria Street with Blair to pick up, I think it was new fans for you.
Mm-hmm.
We're picking up fans, and I was picking up like a seat cushion or something. And we're getting out, and she's like, "You want to go to get coffee at McDonald's, which is right next door?" I said, "Yeah, sure." We're driving. She goes, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, it's Elvis!" And I looked. I went, "Yeah." I went, "So?" And she starts laughing. She's like, "What?" I'm like, "That's just Elvis. He's here." And it's like, I broke Blair's brain because she's like, "What?" I'm like, "Yeah, he's been doing that for 20 years." She's like, "You never told me." I'm like, "Well, he's just like a fixture of the city."
Yeah, it's weird. Like, we have characters in our area. We have a very famous YouTuber who lives in Kitchener, Ricky Berwick.
Oh yeah, he was filming when I was at Beat Goes On a couple last year, I think, and I narrowly escaped frame. He had a couple friends with him.
Yeah, he's a colorful character to say the least. He has
got like 1 million or 2 subscribers now,
something like that. He has a physical handicap, but it does not stop him. He's an epic level troll.
Self-deprecating, like he has pretty profoundly physically disabled, but he goes over the top. He will get away with doing like a 10-second video saying some of the most heinous shit or showing the most like that you would normally, you'd be like, oh my god, that's in poor taste, you can't do that, but he just does it. Like he
commits to the bit and doesn't stop.
Yeah, he's self-deprecating, and he makes his money off of that. One of his biggest videos recently was him picking up the PlayStation 5, and he turns it on, and they mocked up the screen to actually show something else on his TV, and instead of saying the PlayStation and then it has the logo fly by, it just says Cripple Station. And he goes, hey, what the fuck? And then it cuts the video. It's like a 12-second video, like an old Vine, and I was roaring laughing. Because he goes over the top with it, and it's all like tongue-in-cheek, way over the top. So yeah, you got him, and he was on Tosh.0, I think, as well.
I think so. Another guy that I knew, he doesn't do it anymore, but I actually interviewed him years ago. He was a fixture on YouTube for a little while, but he was Toronto Batman.
Oh yeah,
and he would wander around in the Nolan costume, and he would just bark at people. He's like, "Where are the other drugs? My parents are dead." That was his big meme for like a year or two.
Well, our other more traditional YouTube, like we got some other bigger YouTube stars as far as in the gaming realm, is we got Shane from Re-Res.
And he has his own television show on Rogers TV.
Oh, he's doing that now? I haven't paid attention because I don't have Rogers.
He filmed a bunch of episodes and they were just in constant reruns, so that's pretty cool. I know there's a couple of big TikTok stars from around here. There's a woman from London, which is about an hour and a half away from here, and I think her name is something Spooky Boo, and her big thing is she talks during her sleep and wanders around naked, but she also has this amazing line of makeup, and they're named after like diarrhea. Like, it's really weird. I'd have to get my wife out here, but it's weird.
But yes, essentially we got some characters. There used to be more downtown before they did a lot of changes, but downtown Elvis is pretty standard. I remember when that all happened, Blair made me call, or like on speakerphone, her parents, and be like, explain to them that we saw Elvis. And it's like, I was explaining it, and they were just like, everybody was like profoundly surprised that this was completely normal for me. But I'm like, yeah, but I've been seeing that guy around since I was like 12.
There was a guy where I'm from, Owen Sound area, and I never found out what his name was, but everyone around town just called him Hobo Joe. And he was a homeless guy who lived near the river, but he was the nicest, most gentle soul I've ever met in my life. And he would fish with me and my grandfather down by the water. And if we would just buy him a hamburger from McDonald's or give him a few dollars, he would just sit down, just talk with me and my grandfather. And I just remember him just being a fixture of Owen Sound for quite some time. And it's always interesting. I saw this meme on Facebook the other day, and it was like, every town has a colorful character that, that's Cowboy Jesus, or in our case, that's Downtown Elvis.
We had a few, like the three most prominent ones. There's Downtown Elvis. There was Rastafarian Man, and he was a white dude, but he was not clean. But his deal, he was always downtown, never asked for money, but like, it was like there were certain staples that when you went downtown, you knew who was there, and you could always count on him being on one bench, passed out with a bottle of Jack Daniels. As sad as it was, he was never bugged anybody. It was just sort of in the periphery. If you were a person from town, you knew who was there, and people would give him coffee and stuff. And then there was another guy who was like downtown. I don't know if he was homeless or he had a place, but he was always playing guitar, and people, and he was good, like really good. So people would give him money, or he never ever begged for money, but he was always like, you give people, go and give him soups and stuff. And there are certain downtown people, like certain downtown characters where you're like, they just are a staple. And you genuinely, like, sometimes when they were gone, like let's say they were gone, people didn't see him for a few days, it would be in the newspaper.
Yeah, like they just became a fixture of the local community.
And not that like, oh God, they're dead or anything. No, it would be in the newspaper where it's like people are wondering where his so and so, and they'd be like, they're fine, they are just here. And it's like you think of that like it's an odd thing that would be printed in a paper if it's a city with a couple 100,000 people. But there are certain characters that you're just so used to seeing, especially when the downtown core, until the malls came in, was such a staple, right? So now I guarantee you that like when people saw the article the news article about Elvis, if you're from the area, I'll bet you 9 out of 10 people were thinking, "Is it the guy from downtown?"
Yeah.
Even though this was a professional, I would have loved to have seen if they got into a fight. This is my town.
This town's only big enough for one of us. All right, so moving on to our next story. This one's a little less happy, but equally as screwed up. So coming from ctvnews.ca, police say a New York man was killed by exploding gender reveal device. And this tends to happen more often than you might think. So this one comes out of Liberty, New York. An expectant father was killed when a device he was building for a gender reveal party exploded, police in New York said on Monday. Christopher Peckney, 28, was assembling a device for his child's gender reveal party in the Catskills town of Liberty when it exploded just before noon on Sunday, state police said. Peckney was killed when the blast, and his 27-year-old brother, Michael Peckney, was injured, police said. Michael Peckney was treated for injuries at an area hospital. The death is the latest in a string of tragedies blamed on faulty gender reveal devices. A Michigan man was killed earlier this month when he was struck by shrapnel from a gender reveal cannon being used at a baby shower, authorities said. Another gender reveal device sparked a September 2020 wildfire that burned thousands of acres in Southern California.
I have a problem with gender reveal parties in general. From a couple's perspectives. One, we've got such this big emphasis now on not gendering people in general, right? So what's the purpose? I know that a lot of these arose as a very direct attack on gender politics from the one side. So it's like, you've got that makes it all kind of icky. Then you got the situation where people are like, oh, look at I don't like the idea that it's all look at me, look at me, look at us.
I don't see what explosives have to do with anything.
Oh, it's got to be blue confetti or pink confetti or a cake. Why does everybody care or want to care about what the gender of your baby is? They're just happy you have a kid.
Yeah, just be happy you have a child that's coming into this world and celebrate the fact that it's being born.
You know what a gender reveal party used to be?
Cake.
You'd be having a barbecue with friends and family, and you'd be like, oh, by the way, it's a girl. Yeah. Oh, by the way, it's a boy. And you know what? Then everybody was happy and you brought out a cake.
Or, you know what's the best gender reveal party if you really want to just do something simple? You have a blue cake, you cut into it, oh, it's pink, it's a girl. Cool, yeah. Done. Or you can do that at like the local AMP or whatever.
Or you can buy those balloons that just pop them and confetti comes out. But that's a mess to clean up. The best one is the cake one because it's so simple.
Yeah, and it's something you and your husband or your family can do together,
and you know
do that with your friends.
But no, that's not enough because it's all about look at me. I have to one up the next person. Oh, Carol and Jim had a bigger one like this. We have to do it better than them. Fuck
I
off.
seem to remember a story we covered last year. Wasn't there someone who did a gender reveal party and it involved a fucking alligator? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I'm pretty sure. And there's also tons of gender reveal parties where it got screwed up because somebody mixed the cake wrong and the cake's black on the inside. So we're having a sludge baby. The baby's made out of the same goop that killed Tasha Yar.
I mean, I don't get it. I mean, honestly, if your gender reveal party involves shrapnel, heavily reconsider what you're doing. You're going to get somebody hurt. It's going to be an event you remember for 10 minutes and no one cares.
Think about this, though. The worst part of this is that kid is going to grow up. Why is daddy dead?
Yeah, what happened?
Daddy was doing something stupid. And then the kid's going to grow up with a complex thinking, oh my God, I'm the cause of dad. If I wasn't born, dad would still be alive.
And that's some heavy shit to tell a kid.
The whole family's going to be in therapy now because of this. So don't do it. Just get a damn balloon or a cake.
Yeah, just
simple.
Go down to Walmart. Go to your local bakery. Get a fucking cake.
Or do the old-fashioned thing and don't find out until the baby comes out, and then everybody comes out. It's a boy or it's a girl.
You know what's weird? I saw this when I was in the hospital getting my ultrasound last week. When I was getting my ultrasound on my stomach to look for intestinal blockages and all that shit, they say on the wall, there's a sign that very clearly says the ultrasound tech will not tell you what the gender of your baby is. And I found that remarkably interesting. That you have to ask specifically.
It used to be they would just tell you if you would you like to know. I think it's a gender politics thing now.
Which is cool, I guess.
No, because it's not that. It's they're protecting themselves because what they're afraid of is the tech going, oh, by the way, it's a boy, and having the parents go, who are you to decide what gender the child is?
Maybe. I don't know.
They don't want to get in the legal moment job. It's just simpler if they just don't.
Yeah.
Don't say anything, and you can talk to your doctor, and you can say, we would like to know what the biological gender is, yada yada yada, whatever the proper term is. Yeah. I think they're just covering their asses, which
it makes sense.
You know what? What happened? The magic was you used to find out when the baby came out.
Yeah, I don't know what there was any things surrounding me when I was born, so I don't know.
You were born and they're like, it's a Michael.
It was hatched. That's all you need to know.
I prefer the word spawned.
All right, so moving into our last story this week, the United States Air Force is working on Wolverine healing powers. Keen to give the military every possible advantage, the U.S. Air Force, alongside scientists at the University of Michigan, so where Aaron works, are working on a futuristic way of expediting healing following an injury.
Is there something he's not telling us?
Would it surprise you? Known as cellular reprogramming, the technique works by modifying cells using proteins using transcription factors, which regulate activities such as cell division and growth.
Do you want to get COVID 2021? Because that's how you get COVID 2021 that modifies itself and kills the whole human race.
This is weird. So it says the treatment can be applied to a wound in the form of a spray-on bandage that could, for example, covert exposed muscle in the surface skin cells, healing the wound much more quickly. There are amazing opportunities in the United States that you don't see in the rest of the world to humanize science and meet critical needs in medicine, said research leader Dr. Intrika. I can't pronounce this. I'm sorry.
Just Dr. R.
Yeah, Dr. R. We have the resources to do this, and it is our obligation to take full advantage of them. Thanks to the Air Force's help, I was able to acquire the tools I need to advance my research into the cellular reprogramming and wound healing. Some have likened the new technology to Wolverine's accelerated healing factor in the X-Men movies. The impact of this research can be far-reaching, said the 711th Human Performance Wing Chief Scientist, Dr. N, this time. The convergence of biosciences with mathematical models can truly provide an inflection point to advance the development of wound healing. Dr. R's research can result in innovative solutions for addressing our needs in the aeromedical operations and future space environments. There's something about
scary
reprogramming cells.
It makes me think of viruses. It doesn't make me think of healing.
Something could go wrong. What if one of those cells that you're trying to reprogram doesn't get the correct signal?
And it becomes super tumorous cancer.
Yeah, exactly. Like you could just give yourself cancer.
What if I got like a really, really big dong?
I don't know if you could reprogram it that extensively, but think about...
a man can dream. No.
Actually,
it could be used to heal. Like, think of if you have... some people, not like, I'm thinking of like flesh eating disease, and you have like bad tissue that, what if there's like flesh eating disease? The problem is the bacteria works so fast that your body and can't heal itself fast enough before it becomes necrotic tissue. What if they could apply this to other antibiotics and stuff where your body then has a fighting chance, so you don't have to lose or have to get skin grafts?
I could see this being useful in the field to stop if you got shot. If you spray it, the wound's not going to get infected as quickly.
That's what I mean. Or like a burn victim where they can heal their burns faster with less scarring.
I mean, the ultimate, one of the things, and I'm going to tie it back to comic books here, is there's a character in Spider-Man called the Lizard. And the Lizard things is Dr. Kurt Connors wants to create a serum or a medical treatment where humans can have the regenerative capabilities of a lizard to regrow lost limbs. Because in the comic books, Dr. Connors has lost his arm for whatever reason. But when he becomes a lizard, he grows it back. So I can see regenerative medicine being a certain thing. And obviously me being an amputee, growing back my leg would certainly be interesting. I don't know how that would ever work. But being able to regenerate certain skin cells.
How about if you could use it on people's pancreases and get rid of diabetes? Because the whole idea with diabetes is the pancreas not producing enough insulin because it gets weakened or damaged.
Or if you could grow your own tissues.
Because one thing is, if you notice, we can't currently repair damaged organs. They just get damaged and then eventually have to be cut away and replaced. Or if in the case of the tonsils or something, they could just be removed. Well, what if you could bring functionality back to organs?
Yeah. Like there's so much possibility there that I think the idea is wonderful.
Or brain. Think about people that have had traumatic brain injuries.
Or Alzheimer's.
Or CTE.
Or even the ability to see.
Yeah.
Like there's wonderful applications, but you got to be so careful.
All it takes is some virus being spliced into it in Doomsday.
Yeah, like there's a lot of possibilities for things to go wrong here. And anything involving biotech science, you got to be so careful. So I'm glad the technology is advancing. I don't like the fact that it's in the hands of the military first, but that's the way it always is. It's always in the hands of the military, then the private sector. So I guess we'll wait and see what happens when we start having Wolverine soldiers. So that's going to do it for this edition of the Weird News this week. Hopefully you've enjoyed taking a tour down the Strange and Unusual with us this week, from downtown Elvis to Wolverine. We've covered it all. Frankly,
both have good sideburns. Both have good sideburns.
This is true. So we're going to take one more break. We're going to have a listen to one of Alex's reviews. And when we come back, we're going to close out the show, give you an idea of what's going to be coming up on the site over the next couple of weeks and over the month. And we'll wish you guys a happy week ahead. So we'll be back, guys, right after this.
All right, I'm here to talk about two films that were sent to me in a package that came with a bunch of horror movies from Vinegar Syndrome, as you would have seen on social media when we posted. And I figured I'd sort of pair off these two here because I want to talk briefly, but I want to make sure that you all get a chance to check it out yourself and see if you want them. The first is a early, I guess late 60s, but like early sexploitation pack from the AGFA, the American Genre Film Archive, plus something weird, and that is She-Mob, and it also includes The Girl from Pussycat, as well as I Start Counting from Fun City Editions. Now, we talked about the Fun City Editions in the first release, I guess just before Christmas probably, when we did a loose cannon longer discussion on Alphabet City. And that was pretty sweet. I know we enjoyed that, so we wanted to make sure we had a chance to check this out. So I'll start first briefly with She-Mob. It's a weird sort of experimental film. It's not quite an adult film because it's not really full nudity, but it's also not quite what you would consider like a thriller or action film. It's sort of somewhere caught in between as like almost this like passion project slash like weird underground. Best way to describe it maybe would be like John Waters-y, if that makes any sense. Interesting film overall. It's very much done from the women's perspective, hence the whole She-Mob aspect, in that there's a kidnapping plot and then a bunch of what are supposed to be, I guess, erotic situations, but end up being more funny and strange than anything because it's just a lot of naked people doing stuff that isn't really sex that actually almost makes it funny. And I can imagine having a few beers with people and watching would make it even better. Same goes for the extra bonus that was included, The Girl from Pussycat. But what's interesting more about this is sort of the background, in that it was a film that sort of was lost until something weird just discovered it when they were buying up a bunch of film back in the day. And I think they've had it, they said in their records or in their archive for 25, 26 years at this point now. And to this date, it's sort of still been an enigma mystery of how it was made. And like they know one producer of it, but everybody else seems to be random people. The company that produced it doesn't seem to really exist. There's a lot of unknowns here. So it's made from the only surviving print of it. And it's been remastered using the new scan techniques where they scan it in and it uses AI to clean it up, and then somebody has to go in manually and make sure that there's no mistakes. And overall, it's pretty good considering it's the only print available. They presented it in its 1.37 to 1 aspect ratio, so little tiny bit wider than like what a television would be, but it's what full screen film was at. It's black and white. It has a copyright date of like 68 or 69. They're not quite 100% sure when it came out, because it was filmed in 67. And if you combine the two films together, you're getting a little about 2 hours and 20 minutes or so of footage. The first one's about an hour and 20. The second one's just over an hour. There is a feature that's included, which is a presentation from Fantastic Fest where they go into detail basically about the film itself and how the AGFA and Something Weird came together to try to preserve and archive this. And that in itself is pretty interesting. It's fun if you're into that weird late 60s, early 70s sexploitation stuff. It's, again, not for children, but it's not an adult film. So I think it probably sort of got lost in the void for many years because it didn't know what it wanted to be. Now, moving on to I Start Counting. This is a thriller, and this is put out by Fun City Editions. I think it might be their second release, or close to it, but it's at least the second release we've covered. Now this it's a pure thriller based on a novel, and it stars what's her name? She is Jenny Agutter. Now, if you're maybe pondering where you might know that name from, if you're a fan of Call the Midwife, she's one of the main characters in that, I guess all the way through now. We're in 10 seasons now. But when she was younger, she was in a bunch of movies, and probably the most famous stateside would be Logan's Run. And then, she was in this film when she was 16 years old. And it's about her living in the small town that's slowly being updated, right around the 60s when all this was happening, when the suburbs were becoming more and more modernized with new buildings and becoming more of like true cities. And there's a killer out there, and she's not sure if it's somebody she knows. And then it goes through the emotions involved with that, and it's pretty well made for the time. And her acting was pretty darn good, actually, considering how young she was. It's been restored in 2K, so for anybody that wants to know what 2K is compared to 1080p, it's ever so slightly wider than 1080p. So, like 1920 by 1080 is what you have with your television. 2K restoration is like 2050 something, so it's ever so slightly bigger. So that's why, if you've ever wondered why it's like, why does something say 2K instead of 1080p? It's because it is technically a little bigger. So they do that, and then it's allowed to be framed a little better on your screen. Now it has a good 20-minute interview with Jenny Agutter. There's also an introduction from her. There's a video essay that's pretty good. There's a commentary on here that was worth listening to that talks about pretty much every aspect you can imagine, and it's well researched and put together. And then there's trailer, image gallery, and subtitles. Pretty standard release. It's something that I'm surprised had not had a release on disc, I believe DVD or Blu-ray, obviously, before in North America. So it's pretty neat that they're putting this out now. There is a limited special edition that's limited to 2,000 units. You can buy with like a slip cover on it. Standard edition you can pick up for, I think the MSRP is about $22-23 on both She-Mob and I Start Counting. That's US. So expect 30-35-ish Canada, depending. Both good, both for very different reasons. But there's trailers for She-Mob right on Vinegar Cinema's website. So I'll make sure that in the review here, I'll put links in the show description so you can actually check it out if you want to see, just how weird it really is.
Basically, he was a geek, sir.
All right, well, that's the kind of show it has been here on ThisWeekInGeek.net. Definitely a bit of a shorter show this week, but you know what? Sometimes the news just isn't working with you, and sometimes it's okay to take it a little bit easy as we start to move on into the spring. We are now almost 1 year into the pandemic. Where were you when everything decided to come crashing down around you? Anyway, coming up on the site this week, I think we have some stuff from Aaron and Future Imperfect with Earth versus Soup.
That might have even been that's last week. I think this week
it's Star Trek. I think
our Star Trek talk. I believe so.
Yeah.
And if not, I believe we might be having a syndicated episode from our friend Ken at his show This Anime. He's got a new episode out, and he was saying, "Hey, you guys want to post it?" And I'm like, "Maybe."
Of course,
so,
I do.
So we'll see. I'm currently recording remotely, so it might be mid to end of the week when that posts. But keep an eye out.
Me, Aaron, and Alex are working on more stuff for Loose Cannon. We're going to be working on a Loose Cannon talking about horror movie trailers. We got a collection from Vinegar Syndrome this past week.
Yeah, the AGFA, the American Film Genre Archive and Something Weird collection has that, and then Vinegar Syndrome is the distributor for that. And then we also have Silent Madness, which is has a 3D film. So there's two versions. You can watch it in three versions. There's a 3D version if you have a 3D TV with the modern glasses, like you see in regular theaters now. There's the 3D version with the blue and red anaglyph glasses, which it includes in the pack. So that's how I'll be watching it. And then there's a 2D version, or they call flat version, which is the regular, like when you see a 3D film put on television, like Friday the 13th.
So we will be talking about, what makes a good horror movie trailer, some of the more memorable ones we've seen, and obviously giving our thoughts on this latest release from Vinegar Syndrome. We're also going to be talking about Stephen King adaptations. What has worked, what hasn't worked, as we just finished The Stand from CBS All Access. All 9 episodes are now available if you're streaming across the world, unless you're in Canada, in which case, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, yar. We'll be talking about that at some point later on this month. Also, for Future Imperfect, we're going to be talking about Mars at some point. We're going to be talking about some of the missions that have gone there, some of its portrayal in media with movies like The Martian, Mission to Mars. There was that movie with Val Kilmer in the early 2000s about Mars. Red Planet, that's it. So we're going to have a lot of stuff to talk about on that show. Some science, some pop fiction, and just some fun with that as well. We're also going to be having a prototype probably on the New Game Plus Expo that Alex was talking about, if there's enough there for us to really talk about.
And if not, it'll be a part of the news segment.
I'm trying to get an interview. I did have one set up with a Stargate actor. I just have to reschedule that once I know whether I got to go back to the hospital for a scope, but ultimately I should be out in like a few hours. It shouldn't be anything major. But I'm just taking my doctor's advice and taking it easy. I still have a lot of homework I have to do. So,
stop being lazy. Forget about your health. Just do it till it kills you. No, said nobody with a sane mind ever.
Yeah, pretty much. But it's going to be a good little while here on the site. So thank you to everybody who stuck with us over the last little bit. Lots of good stuff coming up. Big thanks to people like Aaron and Steve and Ken for producing content. Me and JT should be recording a new TWIG Sunday Funnies. We're going to be taking a look at the Dreamwave Transformers comics that came out in the early 2000s and why they succeeded and why we have the IDW comics now, which I really kind of fell out of then when they took over the license. So we'll be talking about those a little bit later on. So until next time, for ThisWeekInGeek.net, we have been
Alex, the producer.
I've been Mike, the Birdman, saying be excellent to each other. We'll catch you guys again next time, right here on ThisWeekInGeek.net.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at ThisWeekInGeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@ThisWeekInGeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.